Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. Welcome to my top 10 favorite open road movies. Probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to open roads. Not a road trip kind of movies. Not top 10 list of that. Check it out. Shameless plug, but I don't give a fuck. Open Road is a studio, kind of like an independent studio. They make very smaller budgeted independent films. They've aligned with a lot of studios like Blumhouse and Maple and few other ones that, if I was more knowledgeable or less lazy and just Google it, they've done a lot of stuff. And they made some interesting movies, and I thought this would be a more fascinating top 10 list, a more niche top 10 list. So why not? Let's get to it. And there's a few movies I could have put on this list that they're very critically praised. They're just not movies I'm personally into. Watch them, kind of done with them. Even some of the movies that are in my lower end of the top 10 list, definitely not movies I watch on a regular basis. Maybe I've only seen them once or twice, but I just enjoyed them more because it's a personal list. So hope y'all can respect that, or at least pretend to respect that. That's all I need. So let's get to it. Coming at number 10 is Before I Fall. Before I Fall stars Zoe Douche, and is one of those time loop movies about someone repeating the day over and over. Or we all call it the Groundhog Day effect. Groundhog Day came out in the early 90s about a man repeating the day over and over again. Phil Connors. Phil. Great movie with Bill Murray, and since then there's been a bunch of types of movies like that. Like Source Code, Edge of Tomorrow, Run Lola Run, and Before I Fall. And I think Before I Fall is definitely the weaker out of these repeat time loop sort of stories. But I'm a sucker for those kind of movies, like looping stories and repeating and trying to figure out whatever the mystery is and why this is happening. I just think Groundhog Day and Source Code does it perfectly. And Run Lola Run is another brilliant one. This one is more of a teen coming of age story. So it doesn't always lend itself to be the most enthralling time loop story, but it is about this girl who's every day getting to this car accident, and she has to figure out why, and she has to figure out all the stuff about her friends and secrets that she's been keeping and they've been keeping, and it's more of a personal story. And the movie relies heavily on the concept and the lead performance of Zoe Douche. Luckily, Zoe Douche is a very good actress, and she is solid in this movie. And without her, I think the movie would have fell apart if they got, I don't know, Megan Fox or something. Someone with just less personality than Zoe Douche. I think it could have really just been... Ugh. But she's great. The concept works well enough for this story. Definitely not, a high recommend, because there's a lot of flaws. And just, if you want to watch a fun time loop story, just watch Groundhog Day or Run Lola Run or all the movies I mentioned. But Before I Fall, solid enough. Coming at number 9 is Cop Shop. This is actually a movie I watched this year for the first time. This came out, 2 years ago? I always had it on the back burner. It was in my backlog of movies to watch. I was like, it looks fun. Don't need to watch it yet. Finally watched it in the beginning of this year. Really enjoyed it. It's very much homage to old school 70s, 80s John Carpenter action films like Assault on Precinct 13 and Escape from New York. Both of which better movies, but this is a very good movie. Frank Grillo and Gerard Butler are easily having a lot of fun in this movie. The minuscule of locations and productions makes it more claustrophobic, and the grittiness and brutality make it more fun. So Cop Shop, definitely an entertaining film. Coming number 8 is an underrated action comedy called Hit and Run. Hit and Run is a very solid movie. Dax Shepard does a great job. And Dax Shepard's not a guy I always enjoy. I think he's very hit and miss with his comedy. He can be very annoying and very cringy and just not shut the fuck up. And same with Kristen Bell. I like Kristen Bell, but then sometimes she can be a little annoying. But if she's Veronica Mars, but getting off topic here. Dax Shepard is really solid in this movie. Bradley Cooper is definitely my favorite as this crazy, hilarious, fucked up villain with his dreadlocks, and I loved his performance a lot in this movie because I thought his comedic timing was funny, and I actually thought he was a pretty crazy villain, and I actually liked his performance a lot more in this than American Hustle, because I felt like the performances And both those movies were kind of similar, that they were both like kind of kooky dudes with weird hairstyles. But American Hustle got him an Oscar nomination, and I didn't even think he deserved it. Should have been nominated for Place Beyond the Pines, but whatever. I enjoyed Bradley Cooper a lot, and I enjoy this movie a lot. I watch this movie every like 5 or 6 years, and I always say, this movie needs more love. Coming number 7 is The Grey. Liam Neeson's The Grey. Say what you want about Liam Neeson, especially now doing a lot of crap-ass paycheck movies, but the man can play some great roles. And, you know, in the early 2010s, he was doing some quality action movies, and The Grey is one of those great quality films. Joe Carnahan does a great job. If you're going into this movie expecting just a straight, like, survival wolf movie about, like, these men fighting against these wolves, that's not quite what you're going to get. You are getting a survival story, but it's not just about them surviving against the wolves. It's actually about a man dealing with his grief and the loss of his wife. It's actually a very deep and meaningful, humanistic, personal story Liam Neeson's character is going through. It's also a survival story and them trying to not get killed by wolves. And I know a lot of people hate the ending of this movie, but there's a lot of meaning by the end of this movie. You can interpret the ending of this movie of him being rebirthed, or him fighting for the life that he never wanted, or him sacrificing himself to be with his wife. There's a lot of meanings and a lot of interpretations you can, you know, kind of guess with the ending of the film, which is why I really enjoy the film. I think it's a very good film. And if you're just expecting it's a mindless action movie about wolves, you're going to be very disappointed, but it's a good survival movie and a good Liam Neeson movie, so check it out if you haven't seen it. Number 6, another very underrated movie called City of Lies. City of Lies stars Forest Whitaker and Johnny Depp. This is about 2 police officers investigating the death of Notorious B.I.G. This is all about, like, this is a crime story. This is not about Notorious B.I.G. or Tupac Shakur. Like, yes, it's about them investigating the deaths and are they linked, and is this like a Bloods and Crips? Is it all like a connected story between the hip-hop industry? It's not even about the hip-hop industry. It's literally about these 2 detectives trying to figure out what happened to these men. And it's not even fully solved, because we all know it was never solved, but they investigate death row records, and they investigate all the people who knew Notorious B.I.G. and the connections with him and Tupac Shakur. It's a really great story. Both Johnny Depp and both Forest Whitaker knock it out of the park with this movie. It's very well written and very well directed, and it's on Netflix now, so definitely check it out. All right, number 5. Number 5 is Dope. Shameik Moore, before he beloved us in the Spider-Man verse movies, he plays in Dope, a great coming of age dark comedy about these nerds becoming dope dealers. Very funny movie. It's a very odd, it feels like it was made in the 90s, this movie, because of how like these kids act. It feels like very much homage to like Boys in the Hood and Friday and stuff. Feels like an F. Gary Gray or John Singleton movie, but very unique, very funny, and it has, again, a very, like The Grey, has a very profound, deep ending to the movie with the character. I definitely recommend that one. Number 4 is the buddy cop movie End of a Watch. End of a Watch is written and directed by David Ayer, who is another very hit and miss filmmaker. He's made some dreadful, horrendous movies, even horrendous buddy cop movies like Sabotage and was the one Bright. This movie is so good. It's a great found footage movie. It's such a unique idea of making a found footage movie, but it's a buddy cop dramatic movie about the day in life of these 2 police officers. It's so good. Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena are excellent in this movie. Even America Ferrera is a very surprisingly great role in this, and Anna Kendrick as well, and it's so good. It's funny, it's deep, it's very realistic, and it is super emotional, especially in the 3rd act of this movie, and it just shows the realism of what Los Angeles police officers go through on their everyday lives, and yeah, such a good movie. Number 3 is our modern day taxi driver, Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is a great movie. Again, Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal is just a sensational actor, And him playing the role of Louis Bloom is fantastic. This movie is very much like Taxi Driver meets American Psycho. Like, because he's very much Patrick Bateman / Travis Bickle sort of character. He's just this borderline, pretty much psychopath character who wants to be a Nightcrawler. People who film gross, disgusting things and give it to news stations for them to sell and put on the news and stuff. And he's willing to get any footage that he can, even if he has to commit the crimes himself. Jake Gyllenhaal is incredible in this movie. Rene Russo, Riz Ahmed is also really solid in this movie. And I'm just baffled that people don't talk about this movie now. Like, when it came out, and like 4 years after it came out, it was a very well talked about movie. But I feel like people don't talk about this movie that much now, which is weird, but people should. It's fantastic. Number 2 is Best Picture winner, Spotlight. Spotlight is a very important film, and it's a very good, informative, educational film about real life shit that happened when priests were molesting kids and not getting any prison time for it. This is about a Spotlight crew, an investigator reporting crew that investigate the Catholic Church and try to interview victims and old priests that were in these sexual scandals. Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo, Rachel McAdams, Liev Schreiber. Liev Schreiber is definitely one of my favorites in this movie. Are all spectacular in this movie. Tom McCarthy wrote and directed, did a fantastic job. This movie is just a hell of a watch, especially all the scenes when the reporters are talking to the victims. Very difficult to watch, but it's very important and very informative. The dialogue is so good, so grounded, so real, and just, I can see why it won Best Picture. It's really good. But yeah, number 1, one of the most ultimate feel-good movies, and probably the movie that makes me the most hungry when I watch, that is Chef. Jon Favreau wrote, directed, produced, and starred in this movie. A very personal story about him, about this chef who works in this 5-star restaurant but eventually gets fired because he basically tells a food critic to go fuck himself. And then he goes and starts his own little food truck business with his son and his best buddy, John Leguizamo, basically starting from the ground up. Very good, funny movie. It's also a father-son movie about him trying to build a relationship with his son, and they relate to cooking, teaching him about cooking and stuff, and I love it. It's a lot about food and culinary and about a man trying to live his dream. I love this movie. Jon Favreau is so good. John Leguizamo is hilarious. You got Dustin Hoffman, Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey Jr. in very small roles. This is probably the only performance by Sofia Vergara that doesn't annoy the shit out of me, but love this movie. One of my favorite movies directed by Jon Favreau. Yes, even more than Iron Man. And I love Iron Man. Yeah, that was my top 10 favorite open road movies. So let me know in the comment section below. Please tell me what are your top 10 favorite movies made by Open Road Studios. Comment below, let me know. And as always, like this video, please subscribe to the channel and join the dark side.